Good afternoon. From the KUOW newsroom, this is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Tuesday, September 30th. We're on shutdown watch. The federal government could shut down for the first time in nearly 7 years if Congress doesn't reach an agreement by midnight tonight. Republicans want a short-term deal, but Democrats want a short-term deal that maintains health care and Medicaid funding. Democratic Representative Susan DelBene of Bellevue says without a deal, some Washingtonians could see their health insurance premiums jump by 65%.
And notices go out in October to people. Open enrollment starts November 1st. Republicans are talking about doing, just short-term funding, not addressing this, which means that we're going to see skyrocketing premiums for folks right now.
U.S. Representative Pramila Jayapal says if the federal government shuts down tonight, Democrats will not be to blame. Jayapal says it's up to the GOP to compromise.
Republicans are in control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. Republicans have to negotiate to get the votes they need. If they can't do that, they own the shutdown. Full stop.
But Republican leaders say voters will blame Democrats for any shutdown. News could change overnight, but we're headed for a shutdown as of 4 o'clock today. More perspective came today on the federal troops headed to Portland. Business leaders in Oregon mostly agree that federal troops should stay out of downtown Portland. One downtown business owner says more needs to be done to revive the city center, but the National Guard is not the answer. Kyra Buckley from Oregon Public Broadcasting reports.
Lisa Schroeder opened up Mother's Bistro on the corner of Southwest 3rd and Ash Street more than 2 decades ago. She's been a critic of how the city has handled downtown's problems, including the pandemic departure of office workers. It's slowly getting better, but Schroeder says the city needs to find solutions such as converting office buildings and creating more housing. National Guard troops can't help with that, and Schroeder says the narrative from the federal government could be harmful.
The negative PR does not help. So when we talk about boarded up buildings, they're not boarded up due to riots and protests. They're boarded up because right now people are not downtown.
Schroeder says if troops do end up in downtown Portland, it will be a waste of time and resources. But Mother's Bistro would welcome them with pastries and coffee. I'm Kyra Buckley reporting.
We'll have more about what this development means tomorrow morning on the show. In health and healthcare today, who's getting vaccines? Washington State has a program for uninsured people to get free vaccines, but so far this year, the program has none of the latest COVID shots, and they're not expected till mid-October or so. Eilish O'Neill has more.
Updated COVID shots are already available in Washington, and thanks to a standing order issued by the state, everyone over 6 months old can get one. But the state's programs for providing free shots to uninsured adults and to all children don't yet have any updated COVID vaccines. That's because the CDC director has not yet signed off on its vaccine advisor's recommendations from earlier this month. And the state says that procedural step is necessary before providers for these two programs can order the vaccines. For now, the only option for uninsured folks is to pay out of pocket, which can run $200 or more. On top of that, the state health department's map of free vaccine providers is about 6 months out of date. The state is updating it now. Eilish O'Neill, KUOW News.
One place you cannot get vaccines, Bartell Drugs. It doesn't exist anymore. The last 3 locations of the 135-year-old chain finally closed in Kirkland, Mill Creek, and Gig Harbor. It was a saga getting here. Rite Aid bought Bartell Drugs in 2020. Then CVS purchased several of the stores after Rite Aid filed for bankruptcy. George H. Bartell Sr. founded Bartell Drugs in 1890 in Seattle's Central District, and it was one of the oldest pharmacy chains in the nation. We'll have a whole lot more and pour one out for the pharmacy Thursday morning. In state immigration news, Ferguson says not so fast to giving up data on the people who live here. Governor Bob Ferguson has introduced an executive order calling on the state's agencies to review their policies on data collection and sharing. He wants to protect the data of local immigrant communities and protect the privacy of everyone in the state. This all comes in the wake of the Trump administration recently launching probes into things like Medicaid spending, voter databases, and licensing data. Putting up a fight over pay today, nurses at Seattle Children's Hospital. Union organizers say hundreds of nurses picketed outside of the hospital today in an effort to put pressure on management as the two sides negotiate a new contract. Kelsey Gellner is a union representative and a nurse.
We're making demands for the health and safety of our nurses and our patients. And in fact, they're giving us pretty significant takeaways, not just to insurance benefits, but they're also trying to dismantle the strength of our union.
The nurses are asking for higher wages, more sick time, and better protections from workplace violence. Seattle Children's says in a statement it is committed to reaching a fair agreement with the union and noted today's pickets will not affect patient care. An update on Kenmore's Bastyr University, which has made the choice to keep its academic buildings and gardens after announcing plans in the spring to sell all or some of its 50-acre campus. Bastyr bought its campus from the Seattle Archdiocese in 2005, but the Seattle Times says the university is only occupying half of its allotted space. A Bastyr official told the Times that students, university staff, community members, Washington State Parks officials, and local governments encourage the university to stay in Kenmore and explore connections with conservation groups. Bastyr is still pursuing zoning changes from Kenmore that may allow some housing developments on that same site. Finally, tonight is the end of the $30 Discover Pass in Washington. Starting tomorrow, Wednesday, it'll cost $45 for the pass to visit Washington state parks and recreation areas. The state legislature approved that increase this past session. The Washington State Standard reports most of the revenue goes right back to the state parks. Next time on Seattle Now, we'll talk about President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Portland and how city and state leaders are responding.
They've used phrases like, don't take the bait. I think there is just this sense that it is a pretty extreme measure to federalize the National Guard and send sort of a militarized force into the city. And that actually, could be creating a problem rather than solving one.
Hear more Wednesday morning. And that's all for today from the KUOW newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Vaughn Jones, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See you tomorrow.